On January 28th, we take a look at the fellow whose life gave us the very word king. Additionally, he paved the way for much of our modern educational institutions. By any measure, Charlemagne was a dictator, long before there was a definition for such, but he also looked out for his people, unlike the rulers of his day, and those who came before him. He started educational reform when he demanded that every abbey and monastery under his wide rule establish schools for the young men in the surrounding villages. Charles the Great demanded that the schools help young men learn mathematics, grammar, music, astronomy, logic, rhetoric, and ecclesiastic subjects. He wished to replace the ignorance of his people so that all could become more prosperous. The tradition of learning that he initiated led to the expansion of medieval scholarship in the 12th century Renaissance. In 1964, a French singer, France Gall, released the hit song, Sacré Charlemagne, in which the lyrics blamed the great king for imposing the burden of compulsory education on French children, but this is wrong. All that one has to do is to look at the improvements in the human condition since we started to better educate the masses. Charlemagne could not read nor write, but he was fluent in several languages, and he did insist that books be read to him on a daily basis. In modern-day terms, he was a bit of a bibliophile. He set up large workshops whereby scriveners would make multiple copies of books, and then distribute them throughout his kingdom. Much of what we know about that period of history was recorded in the works of the scribes. Charlemagne peacefully handed over his power to his son in 813, due in part to his failing health. He died a year later on January 28, and was entombed in Aachen Cathedral. The exact spot of his burial was not recorded nor well marked, and this turned out to foil the Viking raid that took place a few years later. Then a few hundred years later Otto III ordered the tomb found, opened, and recorded. Here is what the grave robbers wrote: "So we went into Charles. He did not lie, as the dead otherwise do, but sat as if he were living. He was crowned with a golden crown and held in his gloved hands a scepter. The fingernails had penetrated through the gloves and stuck out. Above him was a canopy of limestone and marble. Entering, we broke through this. Upon our entrance, a strong smell struck us. Kneeling, we gave Emperor Charles our homage, and put in order the damage that had been done. Emperor Charles had not lost any of his members to decay, except only the tip of his nose. Emperor Otto replaced this with gold, took a tooth from Charles's mouth, walled up the entrance to the chamber, and withdrew again. If you only had time to say one thing about Charles the Great, it would be that he was in favor of education. Encourage education.